morning, everybody. I think we have a phenomenal opportunity to get from the best what we can all learn about the future of cybersecurity from India. So, many of you may not know, I would call the contribution, biggest contribution to protect every bank, every finance, everything in probably across the globe is from a small nation, Israel. 400 plus startups have produced. Biggest of the biggest started with Checkpoint, which was a long time back, then one after the other, including yesterday, CyberArk, which is also came out of Israel, got an acquisition offer from Palo Alto close to 20 billion. You heard about Wiz, you heard about Sierra, you heard about Sneak, you heard about many, many companies. And these three who have flown here to share their insights because they're in the middle of that ecosystem. So, the purpose of this is to get the inspiration and fast forward the learnings that they have done over several decades for us in the next decade, how we produce exemplary startups from this part of the world. Thank you. Okay, so just to introduce, Lydia has been with Microsoft, was a product manager for one of the biggest product there, Sentinel, and then decided to start. She will bring her expertise of what has happened from large company to the startup world. And then Joseph, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth, I'm losing the count of how many startups you have made, how many exits you have made. He's on his next journey and he's built, sold, and learned a lot in the process. So, a lot to learn from that. And Zach is very unique position. He has been with Symantec, McAfee, advisor to a lot of startups, advisor to a lot of large CISOs, has seen on the both sides of the world, now also part of the startup. So from him to see how the buyers look like and how they think about it and how they cracked it. So with that, let's get started. It's going to be interesting. I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Lydia, let's start with the core of this, the Unit 8200. Many people may not know exactly what the pressure, context, what happens there, and why so many startups come out of that.
You hear me? Perfect. So I really want to answer that, but then I'll have to kill all of you. But without sharing too much, I can say that I divide it into three things, and the two first things are more trivial. The first thing is obviously, you're age 18 and you get into the core, the heart of technology, things that for, back then looked like science fiction, the middle of cyber. And that's something that, you take with you. Second thing is obviously the network, the community. A lot of founders, they find their co-founders in the army. That wasn't the case for me, but almost every job I got in my life, throughout my life, was through some sort of 8200 connection. And finally, the thing that is maybe less trivial is that you're in a situation where you have limited resources. You need to be creative, you need to be resourceful, and you need to solve really hard problems that are very important, make the news every day. And you have to be creative, you have to be crafty, and these kind of skills that I think good entrepreneurs can really utilize.
Anything to add, Zach? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes this unit unique, even around the world, is that they believe that their strength isn't in their experience, but in the people they have. So it's very common there, but not common in another place, to see a very young person, 22, 23, running a team, having a lot of responsibility. So because it's natural that you will run a team of 10, 15, 100 people, you will deal with things that are very frightening to deal with. When you go out to a startup, you have this kind of confidence. I've done it. So because you are getting responsibility very quickly and they judge you based on your skills, not necessarily your age or experience. This is something that set this unit apart from other military organizations in the world.
So that probably is where most of the leadership skills of these founders that are coming out are kind of tested, also experimented, and they come with the confidence. Like they get an advantage when they start actually the cybersecurity startups. Yeah. Okay. So let's start. This is I would say, an unprecedented time in our human history, I would call it, in terms of the AI and digitization over the last 30, 40 years has made security as important, cybersecurity as important as what people used to build forts before and walls and so on, right? Locks to the home. Now with AI, it's opening up. Maybe let's start with Joseph. You do you think this is going to create more problems, more startup opportunities, or the existing players will win?
I definitely believe that's going to create more opportunities, more problems. We're now looking at couple, me and Zach, we're working together to build a new startup company. We're cybersecurity entrepreneurs. So we look at different verticals. One vertical, and we do that by talking to CISOs, and we try to learn from CISOs and forget all that we know and listen. And what we hear is we have departments that build agents inside of our organizations, but we're blind. We don't have like the sharing. They're just moving fast. They build um, agents that reduce manual labor. So we see that as one risk and one great thing that's happening. And we see that widely. Repel it case. I'm sure all of you heard about it. Developer used one of the agents that helps create code, one by Repel it, and it deleted the production database. It did that autonomously. It made the wrong decision. So I think we have a lot of
So change is going to create a lot of opportunities,
yeah.
and this change is moving faster than ever in terms of AI getting into the organizations. Yeah, agreed. Zach, quickly on the other side, how much of this AI can be used by cyber attackers as well as the wrongdoers, and how much pressure you think they would put it on pretty much across the globe?
So I would say that I really like the term first movers. So maybe we are first mover in founders, but to be honest, in cyber, the first movers are hackers. So you usually see them taking the first step. And I have to say, it's something very different around this industry. If you go talking with people around medical or engineering or legal, they know where they want to go. In cyber, in many cases, we follow attackers. Because I wanted this year to invest in my SOC, but because of the new attacks like deepfake, now I have to pivot. So understanding the attacker mindset is unique and critical in this industry. And in your regards, we have just seen a couple of things that change our paradigm, like vulnerabilities, right? If you look at Hacker1, which is a quite popular bug crowd platform, Expo, which is AI generated, generated the most 0 day this year. We just saw a high severity 0 days in very protected pieces of code like SMB and SQLite. So is the new reality is that 0 day will become trivial when we are using AI, and we are seeing attacker using that. We have seen the concept of not building a Trojan. To be honest, it's not that difficult to build a Trojan. You don't need an AI for that, but we've seen a full operation of an AI operated Trojan running inside companies. So if before that, like cyber crimes took out 1 or 2 or 3 companies a month using AI agents to run their operation, now they can scale up quite easily. So it's going to change everything uh, with new attacks surface, as Joseph mentioned, like misalignment and prompt injection, but also with all the normal one, which they can quite easily utilize. So it's going to change everything.
Now, with just add to this, is the voice cloning and susceptibility of consumers, internal employees to right now. So far, we were protecting quite a lot from external. But if internal employees fall for a voice cloned thing and suddenly phishing and some of these things, don't even know where it starts and where it ends today. So this is a, I don't know, you're seeing this, it's just matter of time because cost of doing cloning of your voice or my voice is less than $100 today.
I would say less than $10. There are so many great models being published to the public. So you really like seeing on the other end, we're talking about AI, the cost of using AI is really cheap because there is a big movement of open source AI models. So you're getting really an enterprise grade AI cloning assistant you can run locally. Nobody can supervise what you're doing. I'm talking from the attacker point of view, and that's like a today problem. It's not a tomorrow problem, it's a today problem.
Absolutely. So let's get into the Israeli startup playbook. What exactly happens there and how it is. So, Lydia, you were in a phenomenal job running a $500 million plus product and doing well. And we have seen many such executives in India, lots of companies, in fact, a lot of global companies have operations in India. They all know exactly the problems, but not easy for somebody to switch and say, okay, I will go and start. Because it may be good to hear from you the mindset under which you started and how typically the startups get formed from Israel. Yeah.
So that's a great question because the journey for me was that I was working for Microsoft at a relatively young age, earning good money, and then I decided that I want to go for starting my own thing. Moved to New York, got an MBA from NYU. Not a very cheap experience for those who don't know. I graduated and I started building my startup. I thought that within a month or two I'll raise money and I'll have my paycheck again. That didn't happen. It took a bit longer. Geopolitical situation in the region didn't help. And then one day Google reached out to me and they want to open a product manager position for me in New York. So there were a lot of tests along the way. There were a lot of points where I could easily give up on the journey. But like I say that at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to um, really wanted to do it, really wanted to starting a company and really connecting with why you want to do it, and sticking to that. So I would say that that's definitely has been a big part of my journey. And at the end of the day, it's obviously the startup experience is very overwhelming, very intense, but it's also very rewarding. I wouldn't have it any other way.
So there is a concept of founder market fit. If somebody is fresh out of school and say, I want to build cybersecurity versus you coming with all the credibility, there is a night and day difference in that part, especially in the cybersecurity. Joseph, you have done multiple such startups. Do you think the young, fresh founders say, I will build a cybersecurity startup versus people who have been in the industry coming out, who has got an edge?
So I'd like to add to Liat's journey. I started my career also at IDF Cybersecurity Military Unit, and this is where I met my commander. He got released a couple of years before me, and he started a startup company. He spent 1 year in New York, and once he was ready to raise funds, I was the first employee. So I got startup training
Yeah.
to scale from the first employee to 100 employees. So after 5 years, I got the appetite to co-found a startup as a founder position. So I think coming from that background, that ecosystem, a lot of Israeli, like the culture is knowledge sharing and helping each other. Even if you approach your competitors, they have willingness to help
Sure.
and share information, even about the market, about what they're doing. So adds my and strength what Liat said.
Good. Um, so the step one in this is typically kind of landing on a good idea. How do you know, maybe Zach, you have seen this part, plus maybe the other two can, because this is the most important thing. You get your idea wrong, nothing happens. How do you land the idea and validate the idea? It'll be good to hear from you starting with, and then from Lydia as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I think like the ideation part is really the most critical part in the beginning. If two things is be humble. I know that we have a tendency to fall in love in our ideas, but be humble and listen to what people are telling you. They are all trying to help you, not bring you down. That's the first thing you have to remember, is that it's okay to get a no, but don't get in love in the no. Don't ask people, and if he's agreeing with me, and if no, it's part of the journey. Chuck it aside. So that's the first part. Understanding that cybersecurity has multiple problems, but they are not all at the same priority of fixing. So if people say, yeah, that's a good problem, that's a good idea, it's not going to mean it's going to allocate budget for that. So it's not about, do you found this problem interesting, which is like an engineering question, is are you willing to pay to fix this problem? And if so, when and how much? So this is much more tangible way to find that, and I'll let Liat and Joseph also.
You were saying about talking to a lot of CISOs. Maybe that experience will be very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, so I when I first started my ideation, the first thing that I thought about was SOC AI. We mentioned it earlier today because coming out of Microsoft Sentinel, it was my expertise. But I felt like it was already saturated 2 years ago, and I wanted to solve something that is a real pain for organizations. And I started talking to CISOs. How did I get on calls with CISOs? Through cold calling. I didn't come with this huge network of CISOs in the beginning before fundraising. So I had to figure out a way to get them to speak with me. And what went into that was reaching out on LinkedIn, asking, "Hey, I'm in New York. Can we meet for coffee? I'd like to get your advice on what I'm building." And slowly, by the time me and my co-founders fundraised, we got to 100 CISOs. And I think that I can really relate to what Zach just said. It's important to find a good problem. And there's a book by Uri Levin, the founder of Wiz, that I really like, that's called Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution. You need to first decide what you want to solve. You need to make sure that it's a problem that is painful enough, that it's prioritized, that it's within the budget, that, asking questions like, did you try to solve it in any way before? Would it be a part of your this year's budget, next year's budget? Is it top 5 concerns? And this will help understand whether it's something that's worth pursuing. I think that once the validation of the problem is done, it's also important to validate the solution, because maybe you got the problem figured out completely, but maybe whatever solution you want to build is not solving it the way you think it does. And that's, I think, the second stage of the validation. And I think that that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially technological ones like Indian and Israeli entrepreneurs, they fall in love with technology. They have a solution in mind that they think is genius, but it doesn't necessarily fit what the market needs.
So on the statement of falling in love with the problem and validating that it's real and there is a some sort of a budget attached, so that you are going to spend on this, and probably if I build a great product that can fit for that, this the the typical feeling of any founder is, why would the CISO talk to me, right? I'm nobody and I'm just started. And probably based on where they have come from, they would say any LinkedIn requests, any calls, nobody takes. And Joseph, you have gone through this twice, thrice. Why would somebody take the call?
You would be surprised. CISOs, some CISOs, not all of them, but they love to share their pains. They love to be involved in creating better products. And it makes sense. I mean, if you're dealing with constant security problems, you want them to get improved. So I think this is why they're willing to to go and jump on these calls. And I can share like and add my 2 cents. This is a tip I got recently from a friend. Um, Go in and look for conferences and see what CISOs speak at conferences. Try to approach them. Most likely, there are better chances to get cold calls
Into them.
into
So
them.
they're more bleeding edge CISOs rather than people who are just maintaining the security. They're want to learn more, and they're more aggressive. They're kind of the early adopters. Because if you get those early adopters, that's what the rest of the market would go. So that's a great tip actually. And
Can I add something
yeah,
to
please.
that? So we're saying the phrase cold calling, and I think there's a prerequisite for that. The CISOs and you are not stranger. You are part of the cyber community. So for me and Joseph, for example, is a good example. He's been contributing to open source for many years, and he's a top contributor, I think, on Stack Overflow. So when people look at the meeting notes they sent you, and they found that you have some history and you have given back to the community, their willingness to talk with you is actually higher. So I'll start with the email. Do something for the community today. Don't expect to get a reward now, but it will pay off eventually because people will remember your name. People will look at your work. Say, well, he's a good guy. He's a smart guy. Maybe it's a good thing to take his call. So don't wait for the email. Do something for the community today as a prerequisite.
So that your name is around a little bit before you go on out. Instead of truly cold, you go with a little bit of credibility, right? So Joseph, you have done multiple places, multiple startups. Knowing what you've done through, what would you do differently, or what you have adopted right now that you would advise others, especially in the cybersecurity startups? Yeah.
So one thing I learned is failing fast. Uh, Forget what you know. I'm coming from a technological background, even though today I'm the CEO. So I'm forgetting what I know, and I try to fail as fast as possible. And if I need to pivot, do that as fast as possible because time is critical. Runway is going to run out eventually. So you want to be first to identify the potential next startup, or to move, or to deep dive. And I think this is also relevant after you fundraise and as you move forward. Even today in the era of AI,
Yeah.
everything changes.
There's a question of ICP in general. It comes out. We talk to the CISO. CISO says something, but the buyer maybe or a user is somebody below the org. Have you come across how to land on the right ICP, who's the user, and the right buyer? Most likely, if it is a big enough check, it has to go to the CISO level. Otherwise, maybe director of IT or director of security and below. Have you come across where ICP is different, buyer is different, CISO says the problem, but user is different?
So on me and Zach's last startup, we built a supply chain security startup. So we had Zach came from sales background, so we had realization that the ideal customer profile is it's not the developer. We can sell it bottom up, but most developers are interested in moving fast, in developing software, in agile mindset. So our ideal customer profile in that case was the security teams, to go to the CISO and just create FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, and telling them this is what attackers are doing. This is why you need a solution like what we're building. And I mean, moving on to Zach, I think he has um, probably more to add, but
The problem of the ICP is also in sales. There's the budget owner, there's the decision maker, there's our champions. So you need to understand title doesn't necessarily mean he makes to do the decision. And in no organization, he can do the decision on himself. You need to understand him. He also has to get political support from inside the company. Why to spend more money? Why to change? Why that? So I don't think there's like a perfect fit. You need to tell the story a bit different to different personas.
Yeah.
based on their needs, and then get the right ICP based on that. So for me, and especially for guys who have a technical background, the one skill set which is crucial is storytelling.
Hmm.
And I know it sounds idiotic, but storytelling and telling the story in a different flavor every time really helps you move the project along.
You have to be constantly innovating in the problem, in the story of how the problem surfaces, and constantly learn from it and iterate very fast before we build anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add that it's important to, I totally agree. And I think that it's important to understand what is the incentive and what value you can create for every persona. And it can change between organizations. So if you sell to the CISO, maybe they care about money saving, maybe they care about leadership visibility. If you do AI for SOC, then going and trying to sell to the SOC organization, telling them we'll replace you, probably not their incentive. So it's important to understand how to approach it. But I think that the most important thing is that the ICP and the problem and all the validation that you do, it has to be iterative, like you say. And there's a tip that I like to give that I think is relevant not just for ideation, ICP, it's relevant to every part of the founder's life, and it's to have strong opinions that are loosely held. It's important to have the opinion, to be very confident about them, but to also be open to changing them. I can tell you that the amount of time that I go on a meeting with my co-founders, starting with one opinion, finishing with the other opinion, and then we switch opinions 3 times throughout the conversation. But it's important. I think it's important that the opinions are strong because it's easy to be just swapped into different directions, but it's also important to have open ears, like you said, and to shift fast when
Willing to change, willing
yeah,
to change
yeah.
when you know that the feedback and the data is changing, rather than kind of being committed to one idea and kind of fight and die. Yeah. Quickly want to change the um, little bit of the first set of customers and how to build the team and how to get the first set of customers from Israel. When you start, why not sell in Israel? Why go to US? Joseph.
So I think Israel is a great place to start. Like if you're an Israeli founder, because you have CISOs, Israeli CISOs that would tell you the truth in your face and not try to disguise it. We have what's called the Israeli chutzpah. It's like telling you what we think without
No sugarcoating.
no sugarcoating. Yeah. So this is one good value from working initially, like the first design partner or maybe first CISO that you try and work with is a local Israeli nearby organization. If something if something went wrong, you go and jump, drive a couple of minutes and fix that problem if needed. So a lot of advantages, but I think the biggest market is United States.
Yeah.
Israel is, I think, less than 2% of world economy. So when you need to scale, yeah,
So you can't make a living in Israel. You have to go out, but you can. The bleeding edge CISOs there can actually test your hypothesis sooner before you actually jump, unless the problems are like really large banks or large, very large kind of thing. That could be the reason. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So on the Leah, on the team side, um, like there is from Indian founders usually have like try to build everything, do a lot of Zoom calls, and once they get lots of customers, then they think about moving to the US. What's the typical structure you have seen in from Israel, and you yourself have moved there as well? When do they move? What do they leave? What happens in Israel? What happens in the US?
I think that Zoom calls, they can only get you, that far. It's not the same like meeting in person. I can tell you that, yeah, I moved to New York 3 years ago. I've been based there. And I think pretty much every successful startup that I know has at least one founder that is US based. And if they don't have, then one founder is traveling at least once a month to the US. And I think that there's something about selling, especially to US companies, that is very much built on relationships. And these relationships are something that can be cultivated in person, and not over screen. I can tell you that one of our first customers is a CISO I met at a panel. I approached him after the panel, and we've been in touch for over a year. I, drive to his office in New Jersey, and we meet, and now he's a customer, and that's something that I don't think was possible to do over Zoom. I think that it goes also towards, and we talked a little bit about product and development. I think that also, product and R&D teams, they also need to sit together as much as possible. And I can say that, I founded my startup about a year ago, and this whole past year I've been spending half of my time in Israel and half of my time in New York, working with R&D in Israel, selling in the US. And it's something that just helps you get so much more.
Is there a reason to delay moving to US, or you know sooner is better than later?
Yeah, I think that based on my experience, there's about a year check mark where things, you have a product already, you prove that you can get some customers and create value, and then you want to really push on go to market. And that's the point where I think it's important to already be in the US.
Yeah. So Zach, when we were talking yesterday, you were saying about remote teams, and also sometimes customer facing teams you may want to bring sooner into the US, especially like level 4 engineers. Maybe ask why is that so important during the early days?
So as Liat said, there are like two parts. First of all, there are companies, and there is no one way to succeed. There are companies that are fully remote, they don't have any presence, and the product sells themselves. So everything is possible. But for most ideas and more stuff, some human interaction, the storytelling, as I said before, is really critical. And so everything that is more customer facing should be closer to the customers. And we talked before, okay, so engineering can stay in Israel, and just the product teams that are more outreaching should be in the US. And then we discussed also support, because when you have a problem, you can say to the customer, okay, I send me the logs and somebody will get to you a day after tomorrow. It doesn't make any sense. So most of the R&D will be good if it's be sitting together. You can work remotely today after Corona. Things have changed, but everything that is customer facing, sales, PMs, support should be much closer to them. And by the way, support, although it sits under the R&D, it's totally customer facing.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to the customer, getting the logs, trying to figure out what's happening with them, you're customer facing. I don't care if you're engineer or not, you're customer facing.
Yeah. So this is, but do you see this as an advantage having teams across the globe, like in Israel and in the US, or is a disadvantage because of the time zones? Say another US team, all local, versus you having two founders in the US, few people, and few people in Israel. How that is an advantage?
I think it's an advantage because to have a mix, because in Israel you got a lot of the engineering talent, so it's very critical in the first stages of the companies. You don't got 1,000 engineers, you got like 10, 15 engineers. So getting the right people from the right talent, working together as engineers is critical, and having the founder split, which is like a very typical requirement for Israeli startups. A lot of cyber Israeli VCs actually tell you upfront, we encourage one of the developers to move to the US, because although you are separately, you started together and you like think like telepathically. So it's not somebody who you hired in the US and he's talking and he has his story and you have your story. So it's important that when you're doing the split, one of the founders does it, not like I hired somebody in the US side. And that usually means that the team needs to split.
So the best of the engineers who are like full stack we were discussing, are like 10x engineers to be pulled in, where you know them and build like really super fast product initially, and also having them access in the US gives like an edge compared to trying to build the entire time in the US.
Exactly. And we're not building the product for the first year. We're building the culture of building the products.
Got it.
So it's important for people to be together for this culture. How long do we work together? Can we go home if there's a problem? Can we postpone stuff? Who's sharing responsibility with what? So a lot of those things will be determined in the first year. So it's really important to be together for this culture.
Yeah, especially in the last panel, we are talking about mission oriented founders. Those are very important. So, one thing, at least every time I speak to the cybersecurity founders here, they say, oh, Israel, as soon as they say, I'm a founder, cybersecurity founder from Israel, you are like 90% of the problem solved. People think trust is built and people want to talk to you. And as soon as I say I'm coming from Bangalore, I'm building a cybersecurity software, I'm going to be the world's best software in cybersecurity, they will say, okay, are you sure? Why are you starting in cybersecurity? Um, Joseph, you trust building, I know you have the benefit of Israel culture, but what are the things Israel has done to build that culture? And what you, when you start now, there's so much of other competition also. How do you build that trust? And what would be the advice to our founders to build that trust?
That's a great question. I would recommend, if you're working on something, try to come out of stealth as soon as possible. Personally, I don't a believer in stealth. I think when I see two different startups, one operating out of stealth and releases research and blog posts and creating noise and brand awareness, that creates a lot of side effect of trust. So whenever the founders or other representatives of that startup approach to do either product market fit or approach CISOs or customers, they have some virtual credit score. Compare that to stealth startups. No one heard about them, or probably few people heard about them. So I think making some noise, as Zach mentioned earlier, maybe community projects, open source projects. I can refer to Sisus, to Sandesh Vibe Checker. I think that's a brilliant project. Uh, Shout out to Sandesh. So that's a great example.
So, yeah, this, when you're building it publicly and talking more to build credibility, yesterday we were discussing about truly may not be related to your startup, but the problem statements are problems you post there or find some solutions. What others people do to kind of be known that they're good at what they're doing?
Yeah, I can say that, obviously we want to build trust, but at the end of the day, the enterprises that you work with, they know they buy from a small company that just yesterday got their SOC 2 and still working on their ISO. So I think that it's a lot about the relationships that are developed with these people that you sell to. I think that founder branding is really important. You're all invited to go on my LinkedIn and see that there's a lot of posts that I post both about my journey and personal experiences, but also about I'm building a third party security. So also about third party security and how it evolves and some of the problems in the area. And I think that through that, I build this credibility, I build this brand, and then CISOs, although we're just a small company, feel like they can trust who they're working with.
Yeah, I know. Just that you announcing yesterday that you're talking here, and I saw a number of people in your network endorsing and saying that go for it, tells you, and these are like really seasoned senior people who are all wanting you to be successful. So, this, I think, founder branding is so important, especially because coming from a small startup, that too in a very crowded market, you have to differentiate. There's no escape for it from not doing it. Yeah, agreed. Cool. So knowing about the ecosystem is starting here, that where where we have a phenomenal number of our back office service providers, our service companies here, as well as global companies of teams here. Lots and lots of almost 2,000 global companies have their security teams in India. There is a lot of service expertise, but we are yet to unlock that value from our startups to get going. If you were starting in India, what would you do? Zach? How do you use this advantage?
So, as I said before, I think this is a huge potential in India, and we talked like before how to get the first CISO and cold emails, and I think like being in Bangalore, you probably has a reach to every CISO around the world because somebody you worked with or in a company can connect you. So this is a great strength to get the networking out. And the other thing, we talked a lot about finding the right problem and the ideation. Uh, Many times, the biggest companies in the world bring the most complex problems to India to be solved. So you have a lot of insight about what the big companies are actually trying to solve. Coming from a small country, we don't have those big brands necessarily, so we don't necessarily experience the big problems on a daily basis. But we have, like, on one end, great networking because some of the brilliant minds in the world are in India and now move to US companies, and you see the problem firsthand. And I do think not necessarily finding a totally new problem, but understanding the problem as it today, and can AI fix it better? Can I improve that? So I think you're in a unique position to look at the problem, to look at the AI technology, and use your network just to move forward.
So the context. See, there is quite a lot of SOC operations in India, quite a lot of analytics, quite a lot of problem solving, quite a lot of security teams in India. So the use cases that the big companies solve actually are sitting in Bangalore, and just finding those folks and working with them to understand these problems would be a great starting point. That's actually an edge to figure out the problems as well. Now, on the AI part, with AI automation, how quickly you see AI solving the rear view problems of the past, and therefore lots of new opportunities coming? Or you think new use cases are because of agentic that you talked about, Joseph? That is the one. Maybe Joseph, you can talk about your startup, how you guys are thinking about, without disclosing too much, the future problem or using AI to solve the past problem.
So for what we learn, I mean, AI is new to the entire industry. I think 2.5 years ago, we would still call it machine learning, but AI is changing everything, and it's, I think, the fastest growing technology that we ever saw. Um, and it's a great thing. But when we talk to the market and we are visionaries, we look forward and we try to have guesses. Okay, what are the risks are going to be? How is this technology going to be developed? And then we try to predict the risks. And we learned that, as you said, CISOs or organization, they try to tackle rear view problems, what they face today, and not like prioritizing a lot what they're going to face in the upcoming months or upcoming year. So this is one of the challenges, and it's a real challenge because you might start working on something that you think that is going to be a problem next year, and you need to pivot because technology changes. So that's one of the challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can also add from, we're building in third-party security, third-party risk management, an area that has been a pain for many, many years, an area that is not solved quite yet. But what we see and what we do is that there are so many use cases that now can be unlocked with LLMs and with AI. We use AI in every single part of the product. And I can say that although we're very fast to adopt all of the new advancements with AI, I always feel like we're not fast enough, and we can be faster. And I think that it's crucial for every organization, whether if it is a product organization or a service organization, to adopt those capabilities as soon as possible, because otherwise, those other people who adopt it will, take over.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about ambition, like especially the founder's ambition. I think Priyank also spoke in the morning, how to think big, how to go all out. And for somehow I feel maybe because of success breeds success, the teams coming out of Israel, like not happy building $1 billion company anymore. Everybody wants to build massive companies. 5 billion is the new clearing things. And today start talking about 10, 15, 20. Is it because there are enough examples? Maybe talk to us what happens in Israel when you're kind of sitting across discussing with other founders. Is there a, hey, why start unless I build a large? What's the conversation like? Maybe we'll start with you, Joseph, and it'll be good to hear from all three of you where the ambition comes from.
Um, so what I see in many founders is not the urge to get money fast. If you want to make money fast, you go and work at great companies like Google, Microsoft, and you would become quite close to millionaire plus in a couple of years.
Quickly.
Quickly.
Safe approach.
That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
That's a work-life balance. That's a more corporate style. And I think what makes entrepreneurs more successful is I'm going to build the next successful company that is going to solve problem very quickly without bureaucracy, without any slowness of processes, and I'm going to do that with a good culture, with a good team that I know that are talented young people that are going to join this journey, and we're going to be successful. And I think that's what I see.
So I see that. Just to add there, somehow I'm getting a feel that there is extreme velocity. Look at Wiz, like crazy velocity. And Sneak, it got a little bit in trouble, but the first few years is like extreme velocity. And every new company is coming there and saying, okay, as you said, I will build the world's best tech, best product, fastest growing, revenue wise, and so on. Is it because there is a playbook, others have done it, and there's advisors? What makes this happen so fast?
So in Israel, and I think it something that happens in other places, but what I see in Israel, there are a couple of programs. One reason is the side effect of IDF. You have technological units, and a lot of great talented people get trained for at least 3 years plus, hands-on building things. So
Got it.
after that, when entrepreneurs start, they have programs. If they approach those programs, where like teammates, cyber starts, they have incubators where they give you the CISOs, they help you with the product market fit, and I mean you get help understanding what is your best founder market fit in your next journey.
Got it.
So let's talk about the money. So one thing that is unique to Israel, and again, it's an evolution. In the first 10 years ago, the founders were happy to be bought at a couple of tens of millions. And then they went to a second round and then a third round. So as you grow more confident in yourself, understand you're not going to build just one company during your lifetime. You're going to do multiple companies. You'll move forward. I have a couple of friends who sold the company to Palo Alto at $700 million, and they regret it every day. So the ability to move forward, and again, we're talking about now the new normal is Wiz. So now you're being compared to Wiz.
Yes.
So I think it's the first one breaking the barrier, as you discussed before, and then now this is the new barrier. So if you want to be the best at what you do, and this is what we want to be, that the barrier is just getting up there. So now the barrier is 30 minutes. Just talk about CyberArk.
Yeah.
For that, oh, it's less than Wiz, but it's still a good deal.
$20 billion.
Again, now the bar is rising. The ecosystem is more supporting, and you have this ecosystem here. It's just wanting to be the best, and the bar is just going up.
Liat.
Yeah, I'll add just one thing because I see that time is up. I think that it's something that is really important is to have this ecosystem, this village around you. So some of our angel investors include the Wiz founders, the Gem founders, the Flow founders, Insight, and each one of the founders, we have almost like a sounding board. In my case, for the product side, the CEO for the sales side. And we always exchange ideas. We learn from each other. I can tell you that even last night we sat at the bar and exchanged idea with each other about what they should build, what they hear about my industry, and that's something that really helps pushing our community and industry forward, and something that I recommend for anyone.
Awesome. One public ask from my side: if our founders want your network, your help, and advice, and even mentorship, even maybe visiting Israel, so if you kind of group them and bring, how open would you be, and how easy for us to get access to you, all of you?
As I said before, what makes us unique, and I'm relating, we are the same community. We are the cyber community. So we are all working together to get the world to be a safer place. So for me, we're automatically bounded, and I'm more than happy to always like take the time. There's nothing to I can get what my needs are for myself, but what gives us pleasure is helping others.
Got it.
And this is the culture that motivates a lot of us.
No, it's definitely thank you, because you guys have flown for this event, and thank you for making this trip. And Joseph, this is your second time you're coming with us, so we're expecting you to be coming more often.
Thank you very much. That's a great honor to be here. Thank you all for coming. And one last request. Accel is doing very well, or doing this summit. If you can take a picture and tag Accel in India at LinkedIn, that would be very helpful. I think that would help create better, more upcoming events
Yeah.
and organic marketing.
That was not my ask. Okay, that's thank
Yeah.
you.
Take out your phones and take a picture.
But I think this is how the communities get built. So we started this when Prang started saying that hey, we need to do this because this is an investment we are all doing, because we know the number of founders we have to create is still in the infancy in India, but we're starting to see this and we're starting to get the momentum. And this is the starting point, and you guys are part of that journey. Thank you for making this trip.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.